Princess Diana met Camilla right during the honeymoon, and they argued. That sentence doesn't just sound shocking, it detonates everything we thought we knew about the so-called fairy tale. Because what if the most painful betrayal didn't happen years later, but right there, at the very beginning, hidden behind smiles, cameras, and royal perfection? And what if the truth didn't surface for decades, until one fragile voice finally refused to stay silent any longer? The story begins not with headlines, not with official records, but with a whisper, a trembling confession from a woman who had spent 45 years burying what she saw. Margaret Ellis, a name no one outside palace corridors had ever heard. But inside those walls, she wasn't just staff. She was trusted, invisible, yet always there, watching, listening, remembering. And what she remembered would shake even Prince William to his core. Because according to her, the honeymoon of Princess Diana and Prince Charles was never a love story. It was a performance, a carefully staged illusion, already cracking beneath the surface. She describes it in fragments that feel too vivid to ignore. The royal yacht Britannia, perfect smiles, cameras flashing, a nation obsessed. Then Balmoral, remote, cold, isolated, the kind of place where silence grows louder and truths have nowhere to hide. And that's where things changed. Not gradually, not subtly, but suddenly. Margaret noticed it first in Diana's eyes. Not sadness, not yet. Something deeper, something unsettled. The kind of quiet that doesn't belong in a honeymoon. The kind that raises questions no one dares to ask. And then, that night, 2:20 a.m., a soft door closing, a shadow moving through the corridor. Diana, cloaked, hidden, slipping away like someone escaping, not someone newly married. Why? Why would a princess sneak out into the freezing Scottish night, alone? Margaret didn't ignore it. She couldn't. Something felt wrong, so she followed, quietly, carefully, like someone who already sensed this wasn't just a harmless midnight walk. A taxi, waiting, not random, not accidental, planned. And suddenly the story shifts from strange to something much darker. Because that taxi didn't take Diana somewhere peaceful. It took her somewhere deliberate. A small cafe, almost empty. The kind of place chosen not for comfort, but for secrecy. And inside, Camilla Parker Bowles was already waiting. Not surprised, not confused, waiting. Think about that for a second. A honeymoon, a secret meeting, and the woman everyone whispered about already seated in the shadows. Coincidence? Or something far more calculated? Margaret couldn't hear their words, but she didn't need to, because sometimes silence reveals more than sound ever could. She watched Diana's face change, moment by moment. Shock, then confusion, then something sharper. Pain, real pain, the kind that hits fast and doesn't leave. What was said in that cafe? What could possibly break a bride just weeks into her marriage? And then, suddenly, it ends. Diana stands. Abrupt, no hesitation, no politeness. She walks out not like a princess, but like someone wounded. And that's when Margaret sees it clearly. Tears, uncontrolled, unhidden. Diana didn't know she was being watched. She didn't know anyone would ever see her like that. But Margaret did. And what she saw didn't match the image the world believed. Because the next morning, the cameras returned. And Diana smiled. Of course she did. That perfect, practiced smile. The one history remembers. The one printed in magazines. The one everyone believed meant happiness. But was it? Or was it something else entirely? A mask hiding something that had already shattered? William, hearing this decades later, didn't react immediately. He couldn't. Because how do you process something like that? A story that rewrites the beginning of your parents' marriage, not as a love story, but as a confrontation? At first, doubt creeps in. Memories fade. People misremember. Time distorts truth. But then, the details start aligning. Too precisely. Too perfectly. Dates. Locations, behavior shifts, emotional changes already documented but never explained. And suddenly the question isn't did it happen? It becomes, how was it hidden for so long? Margaret didn't come forward for fame, not for money, not for attention. She came because something inside her refused to stay buried any longer. Because silence, after 45 years, started to feel heavier than the truth. I have something I must tell you about your mother. That line alone was enough to open a door that had been locked for decades. And once that door opens, nothing stays hidden forever. Because now William isn't just listening, he's starting to dig. And what he's about to find might not just confirm the story. It might expose something far bigger. Something the royal family never wanted uncovered. Something that begins with one night, one cafe, one confrontation, and a secret that refuses to stay buried any longer. And this is where the story stops being a whispered confession and starts turning into something dangerously real. Because once Prince William heard Margaret's account, he didn't dismiss it. He didn't bury it. He didn't did something far more unsettling. He started verifying it, quietly, methodically, like someone who already suspected that behind the royal narrative there was something rotten waiting to be uncovered. At first, it was just a request, a simple instruction to re-examine the 1981 honeymoon records. But even that feels strange, doesn't it? Why revisit something so old, unless you're afraid what you might find still matters today? And what came back wasn't denial. It wasn't contradiction. It was something far more chilling. Confirmation without direct admission. The dates aligned. Balmoral, mid-August. And then, one tiny detail buried inside security logs that most people would overlook. A taxi summoned to the side gate. 1:45 a.m. No passenger name. No explanation. Just a gap. A silence. And silence in stories like this is never empty. It's hiding something. Now the question changes. It's no longer could it have happened? It becomes who made sure it was never proven? Because if Diana really left that night, if she really met Camilla Parker Bowles during her honeymoon, then everything we thought we knew about that marriage collapses. Not slowly, instantly. And William knew that, so he didn't stop at documents. He sent people, quietly. No royal titles, no attention. Just ordinary faces asking very specific questions in a very small Scottish village that had long forgotten it was ever part of something so explosive. And that's where the story cracks open completely. Because the calf, it still exists. The Highland Brew, a place so ordinary it became the perfect hiding spot for something extraordinary. And inside, still alive after all these years, the one man who saw everything, the owner. Old, slow, quiet, but memory, sharp, too sharp. At first, he hesitates. Of course he does. Because secrets like this don't just disappear, they sit inside people, shaping how they speak, how they pause, how they choose their words. But then the right question is asked. The right moment is triggered. And suddenly, the silence breaks. He remembers the cold, the hour, the tension. He remembers her. Diana, sitting pale, shaken, not speaking much. And across from her, an older woman. Blonde, sharp voice. No warmth, no hesitation. They didn't shout. That's the disturbing part. No chaos, no public scene, just controlled, cutting conversation. The kind that hurts deeper because it's deliberate. And then tears. Diana leaves, crying. Not a rumor, not a theory, a witness. And then comes the detail that changes everything. Half an hour later, Camilla returns. Not to apologize, not to reflect, but to pay. Money. A lot of it. Enough to erase a night. Enough to buy silence. No one was here. That's what she told him. No one must ever know. And just like that, the truth was buried. Not by accident, not by time, but by design. Now think about it. If this was harmless, why hide it? If it meant nothing, why pay for silence? That's the question that starts haunting William. Because now this isn't just about Diana's pain. It's about a system that allowed it and then erased it. And something inside him shifts. This isn't curiosity anymore. It's personal. It's justice. And suddenly, the investigation becomes something much bigger than a memory. Because while William is digging, someone else is panicking. Camilla, the same woman who once controlled the narrative, now realizing the past is catching up. And not through tabloids, not through rumors, but through evidence, witnesses, records, patterns that align too perfectly to ignore. And fear? It shows. Quietly at first. A trembling hand during tea with Prince Charles. A sudden call. A private phone. Because she knows exactly what this is about. She remembers that night. And more importantly, she remembers what she said. So she does what she did before. She tries to control it. She goes back to the calf, back to the same place where everything started. Same smell, same walls, same memory waiting for her. But this time, she's not the one in control. She offers money again, more than before. $200,000, not to create silence, but to maintain it. And that's when the story reaches its breaking point. Because the old man doesn't take it. He doesn't even touch it. And in that moment, something shifts completely. Because money only works when fear is stronger than truth. And here, it isn't. You're afraid. That's what he tells her. And suddenly, she is. Because control is slipping, the narrative is collapsing, and the past is no longer quiet. But what she doesn't realize, what she never expects, is that she's not alone in that calf. Because the door opens, and everything stops. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly. Prince William walks in. No announcement, no spectacle. Just presence. And suddenly there's nowhere left to hide. No denial that sounds convincing. No version of the story that survives what's about to happen. Because William doesn't shout. He doesn't accuse wildly. He does something far more devastating. He lays it out. The night, the meeting, the tears, the payment, the cover-up. piece by piece, like someone reconstructing a crime that was never supposed to be investigated. And then he plays the recording, her voice, clear, undeniable, offering money, buying silence. In that moment, the past isn't a rumor anymore, it's evidence. And Camilla, she breaks. Not publicly, not dramatically, but internally. The kind of break you can't undo. Because now it's not about what people believe, it's about what she knows is true. And finally, after decades, she admits it. Yes, she met Diana. Yes, she said things she shouldn't have. Yes, she tried to bury it. But here's the part that lingers, the part that refuses to settle. This truth, it doesn't explode into headlines. It doesn't become public scandal. It stays inside the family, handled quietly, contained, just like before. And that raises one final question. If something this big could stay hidden for 45 years, what else is still buried? Because maybe this wasn't just one secret night. Maybe it was the first crack in a story that was never meant to be seen clearly. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of the truth coming out. It's only the beginning.